If you haven't grabbed any food yet, make sure you go back there for the Enzo's. It's delicious.
It's well good. It's just the, I don't know, I haven't gotten to
You guys are good.
We ready? Cool. Hey everyone, welcome to the first Google Hangout Live, a DUU Artstigators joint production.
So more about Artstigators. I know it's new to campus, so a lot of you may not have heard of it. Artstigators, what's an Artstigator? You don't have to be an artist to be an Artstigator. Anybody with an appreciation of art is an Artstigator. So if you're looking for more ways to get involved, make sure you follow @Artstigators on Instagram and on Twitter. Also, there's a really awesome table back there with a lot of stickers and other cool swag, so make sure you check it out and take whatever you want.
And we're going to introduce ourselves super quick. I'm Andrew Jacobs. I'm a junior. I did the Duke in Chicago program this past summer where I interned at Victory Gardens Theater.
Hi everyone, again, I'm Nicole, I'm a senior. I did Duke in New York my sophomore year where I interned with Revlon, and then my junior year I actually did Duke in LA, and I interned with a PR boutique called Integrated PR. Also, if you guys have noticed these awesome stickers that we both have on, and that you all have on, or some of you have on, these are the stickers that we've actually participated in the program, or for those of you that want to participate in the program. So make sure you talk to everyone that you see with a sticker on that you like.
Great. And just to give you the lay of the land for the next 2 hours, first half hour, Nicole and I are going to ask our alumni a few questions, then we're going to open it up to you guys for the next half hour.
And then on part 2, if you guys take a look around and you look at the walls, you'll see Chicago, New York, DC, all of the study away programs that Duke has. Interested in New York, you can go huddle in the New York section and everybody can have a little discussion. I'll be jumping in between New York and LA, and Andrew will be over at Chicago.
Yeah, and it's super important whether you're a freshman up to a senior to just stay for that and connect with people who want to live in your city, people who have had experiences in those cities, working in those cities. It's just, it would be a great experience even if you're a senior. So just stick around.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to introduce our alumni.
Great. So we have Matt Greenfield from New York. He's a producer at the NBC TODAY Show. We have Bryan from LA, Senior Vice President of Production and Development at Color Force, which is responsible for the Hunger Games. And Noreen Khan from DC. She's a digital reporter for Al Jazeera America.
Okay, so we also have Katie McClay from Chicago. She's the VP and Account Director at Leo Burnett Chicago. Ross Tucker from San Francisco, the Associate Product Marketing Manager at Google. And Dee Kapetrova from San Francisco, the Programmatic Video Specialist at Google. Okay, so why don't we jump into some questions? Like Andrew said, we're going to ask each of them a question, and then we're going to open it up to you guys so you can ask any questions that you may have. So my first question is for Bryan. Bryan, can you hear me?
I can.
Hey, Bryan. Okay. So can you share advice that you wish you would have had as a student or recent grad trying to enter the movie industry?
I can. First of all, hi Duke. Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it. Can everyone hear me okay? Seems like we're cutting out.
We're good.
No, we're good.
All right, great. So some things I wish that I knew about before getting started out here. One, it's very important that you actually move to Los Angeles or New York to work in film, to be in the center of the film industry. A lot of people, especially I know you see a lot of seniors walking around and already having their jobs lined up for the following year. If you really want to work in television or film, you probably won't have a job first. You're going to have to come out here. You're going to have to meet people and find your opportunity when you're actually here. The other thing is, read as much as you can about story, about screenplay, as before you come out here. There's books like simple books like Sid Field's book. Robert McKee's book. Those books are really helpful because story is obviously at the center of film and television. The other thing you can do now is read the trades. You can Read Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Deadline Hollywood. Those give you an up-to-date account of what's going on around the industry, and the more you read those trades, the more you'll know the names and the major players out here, and that will really help you when you come out here. The other thing is just watch as many movies and television shows as you can. It's pretty fun, and you can from there start to get a sense of who's behind the type of stuff that you want to be a part of. The more names and the more you've watched, the better prepared you're going to be when you actually come out here. I don't want to take too much more time, but I could go on. Maybe later I'll talk to people individually.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Bryan. Katie, you're next. You are an art history. Can you hear me?
Hold on. I can hear you. I was unmuting. Sorry.
Okay. You are an art history major at Duke, and you now work in business and advertising. So how did your academic major influence your work at Leo Burnett, and what advice do you have for students who are concerned that their major might not perfectly match up to their future career of choice?
Well, hi everyone. Yeah, thank you for inviting us to join. This is fun and something that I wish had happened when I was a student at Duke, because as an art history major, I was curious as to what opportunities were out there for me, and while I was an art history major because it interested me, it was something that as I started to look for jobs, I started to feel like, wow, I don't really want to work in a gallery or a museum, but I'm interested in doing something creative, something where I'm getting to create something. And so, advertising was something that I felt like was an interesting career path, but being an art history major, I was concerned that I didn't have the skills. But as I've actually, spent more than 10 years now in the business, I think I actually look for people to hire who don't have a marketing or an advertising background, because I think people who have critical thinking skills, the ability to tell a story, the ability to form opinions and defend opinions, all things that I really learned and honed as an art history major, and also as a liberal arts student at Duke. I think while my major didn't necessarily make it easy for me finding my first job, I think all of the skills that I really experienced in the art history major have helped me in my career. So I think if this is an area that you're interested in exploring, I actually think not being a marketing or advertising major is important, because we look for people that are students of the world, people that can bring insights and experiences from different facets of their life and different backgrounds to really help create these really engaging consumer experiences. So I think it's actually a benefit that you don't have a major that matches up to your future career, at least from an advertising or marketing perspective. So.
Great.
Actually participated in Duke in New York while he was at Duke. So Matt, my question for you is, how did your experience at Duke in New York prepare you for your career after graduation?
Duke in New York was actually kind of a turning point for me in school, because I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and a friend of mine who was in the same fraternity as me said, why don't you come do this program with me for the fall? And it sounded great. I'm actually from New York, so it was fun to go home for a little while. And part of Duke in New York is having an internship in the field that you want to study. And I actually was able to, through some contacts actually that Duke helped me with, I was able to get an internship at ABC's Good Morning America, which is sort of what started my whole career in morning news television. So it actually really set me up for kind of how my career got started. So anybody who's interested in media, especially a lot of things that go on in New York, there is some television, there's certainly a lot of television news, should certainly consider doing this program, because Duke can help you through both alumni and through contacts they have on their own, get the internship that you're looking for which can really help you start your career. So that really is where I got my whole start.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Duke. So what are the ways that your experience in the Chronicle prepared you for your work at Al Jazeera?
Hi guys, thanks for having me. That's a really great question because I'm a total evangelist for getting some newspaper experience in while you're still at Duke. You know, my job is not that different now than it was when I was at the Chronicle. I mean, the area that I'm covering is certainly bigger, but in terms of learning how to cold call people and dealing with sources who are mad at you and, you know, occasionally getting it wrong and having to correct it and dealing with tight deadlines and, you know, putting together a product that you're proud of, all of that stuff I sort of learned in the Chronicle, and, you know, sort of managing people and being managed by people. All of that I deal with on a bigger scale at Al Jazeera, obviously, but, you know, the Chronicle was a great sort of on-the-ground learning experience. And again, I can't say enough for getting that sort of practical experience while you're still in school.
Great, thanks, Doreen. Okay, so Ross, this next question is for you. So you secured internships at MTV and Google Play while at Duke. What suggestions do you have for students pursuing internships in media and tech? Also, how did your internships help you decide what path to take?
Sure. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm sorry about my voice. I just got back from a week in Bali, so you'll have to bear with me. But as far as my advice on internships, I think the biggest thing that I learned is the sooner you know you want to do media and tech, the better, because these types of companies typically don't recruit that heavily at Duke. So one thing I had to learn is really to master the art of the informational interview. And looking back on my experience, I was pretty shameless on LinkedIn and resources like Duke Connect, just reaching out to people. But if you do that with folks who are in the Duke network, you're going to get some responses, and a lot of those led to internship opportunities for me. The other thing that's great about knowing that you want to do tech and media early on is you can really focus on making that part of your brand by the time you leave Duke. So I think if you know that that's what you want to do, you should be relentlessly pursuing things at Duke that are relevant with your interests and with that industry. So the fact that you're in this room right now shows that you're already doing this, but there's always more involved on campus, whether it's going to D-Man's flagship weekend in the fall, where you can meet other alumni in the industry, or if it's subscribing to something like a listserv such as Duke Gen, the Global Entrepreneurship Network, to find out about tech events on and off campus. This also counts for classes too. I think this is often overlooked, which is the fact that many of the classes at Duke can leave you with a core project or something that looks really great on your resume. One class in particular I'd really recommend all of you try to get into is Intro to Tech-Based Companies, which is taught by Larry Boyd, and Leading as a Social Entrepreneur by Chris Gergen. Those are two classes that really helped add a lot of depth to my resume. And then I think the most important takeaway is when you're applying to internships, I think it's really easy to think that the whole world just stops and everything is about you. But that's not the case at all, especially for media and tech. Oftentimes, alumni in this field are really pressed for time. So I think as much as possible, when you're reaching out to people, make sure that you're super humble and that you're thoughtful about their time. And when you're positioning yourself, talk about ways that you can help rather than saying ways in which you think the experience is perfect for you. Because I think that that can go a long way. And then the second part of the question, how have these internships helped me figure out what I want to do after Duke? I think I got pretty lucky in the sense that I figured out by the end of freshman year that I knew that media and tech is generally a space I was excited about. My first internship with MTV was unpaid, and I think the fact that it was unpaid helped a lot because the value becomes all about the work that you're doing and the relationships you're making. So if you can try to do an unpaid internship, I think that actually helps you think a lot about what you're doing and what type of company excites you. And then the second internship was with Google, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen the movie The Internship, but it's nothing like that, not in a bad way, but in the sense that it's a bit more serious. And I think one thing I noticed at Google is that they really invest in great management teams, and I think that's something, that was my biggest takeaway from that summer, is You could be working on the most boring thing at a media company or a place like Google, but if you have an incredible manager and a really great team culture, those are two things that are going to help you grow your career and make you excited about working.
Great, thanks, Ross. ECAT, the last question is for you. You've had a pretty broad span of jobs, including marketing at PepsiCo and social ad strategy at Google. Not sure the specific area that they want to pursue.
So I would basically say try different roles until you find something that you like. It's really easy while you're at Duke and then afterwards to just try out a bunch of different things and hop around, especially because job descriptions are usually really vague and the day-to-day is much different from what you would read. So for me personally, I love variety and I love adventure, so I just wanted to try out a bunch of different things, which leads me to like the second part of that. I would really recommend starting out at a startup because internal mobility is really easy at a startup. And also, even if you don't hop around between a bunch of different roles, the actual scope of any given role is going to be much wider than it would be at a bigger company because startups are just trying to move really fast and there's a lot of opportunities to get involved with projects across the board. There's always going to be like a project that you can help with or something that you can come up with to test out, just play around and figure out what it is that you really like.
Okay, great. So that wraps up our questions, but now we're going to open it up to you guys so that you guys can ask any questions that you may have for any of our alumni. So with that being said, are there any questions? You guys can raise your hand.
Don't be shy. Yes.
How do you go about setting up internships whenever you go to LA?
Yeah.
So maybe Matt we could talk about this also when we break into small groups, so maybe Matt, would you like to talk about how you found your internship for Duke in New York, or anybody else who may have participated?
You guys repeat the question.
How did you find your internship when you did Duke in New York?
How did I find my internship? Let me try and remember that. Actually, I believe somebody at Duke, an alumni, worked actually at Good Morning America and put me in touch with the hiring manager for summer internships, and that's I mean, especially in news media, it's really like it's kind of the key to just know who you need to get in touch with in order to apply for an internship. I know a lot of times you can apply online and it seems like sort of a faceless application, and a lot of times you'd be right. I mean, like those go into a folder and maybe they look at them, maybe they don't, but if you can connect directly with the internship hiring manager and send them your resume directly, and can even get an endorsement possibly from an alumni or somebody you know that's on the staff, that certainly goes a long way. But I'd say in general, if you can connect directly with the hiring manager, that is the best way to at least get a foot in the door for getting an interview.
Experience, the Career Center was a huge help in finding internships. So also just remember, guys, if you stick around later on, all of these questions, especially if you have questions for particular cities, we'll talk about them in the small groups. So what else? Anybody else have a question?
What sort of recommendations do you have for entry-level positions? As like there are several seniors in the audience, and each of your companies like entry-level positions, and how to go about connecting with people and what opportunities there might be.
Did you guys hear that?
Repeat the question.
She wanted to know what you should do about entry-level positions, especially for seniors in the audience who are positioned in a company. Anyone can take this.
Oh, okay. They want all of you. So why don't we start with Bryan and we'll just go down.
So, as I mentioned, I think it is important to actually move to Los Angeles or maybe New York if you want to work in film or television. Before you come out here, I think Duke Connect and the Career Center can be helpful, letting you know which Duke other Dukies that are working in the field, and you can just reach out to them and send an introductory email or even or a call, and just at that point ask questions about what they do and where they're working. They'll know you're going to be looking for a job, so you don't even have to be that overt about, like, oh, do you have any positions? But if you feel like you want to be that aggressive, you can be. But it's just a process of learning as much as you can about what people are doing, and then when you come out here, it's kind of this unspoken thing where everybody has their sort of class, and you start meeting people at different places, and you ask them what they're doing, and eventually you're going to find some sort of opportunity. A lot of people start at agencies. There's 4 or 5 like major agencies out here that represent a lot of writers, directors, and actors, and because they are so big, they have a lot more turnover. And a lot of times those entry-level positions are either working in the mailroom or working as an assistant. And you learn a lot about kind of the pace of things there. You meet a lot of different people, and you kind of work your way up. It's important to have some patience because there's not that. It's difficult to get a job, but you will get a job if you're tenacious. And then once you get it, just keep your head down and be respectful and work your way up. Oh, one other thing I would say real quickly. When you are looking for jobs, I would somewhat, in film and television, I would somewhat disagree with previous advice about working as a startup. I think that might be pertinent for tech companies, but be wary of the startup and production company for film and television. You're going to be working hard one way or the other. You might as well be working hard for the right people, because that's going to just set you up and put you in an environment where you'll be learning a lot more, and you'll be interacting with the types of people that you'll ultimately be able to further your career. So be really careful about that first job, because you can get set up with people that you're ultimately just kind of spinning your wheels.
Great, thanks, Ryan. Let's go on to ECAT, and just a quick reminder, we're just talking about entry-level positions in your field.
Yeah, I would say same thing, reach out to people who already work there. There's a completely different interview process at Google if you're referred by someone internally, and then you just kind of get sped along. Otherwise, can't guarantee you'll even hear anything back, like, hey, we received your resume. So I would just advise network while you can, reach out to people, reach out to them before you necessarily need them, just kind of find out a little bit about what they're doing and do your research. I've listened to a couple people that I've regretted referring because they didn't really research the role and everything else, so now I'm a little bit more selective about who will help out. So I think that's just something to keep in mind. Don't reach out with kind of the attitude of, I need you, but it's kind of it should be a two-way thing.
Cool. Katie, you're next.
All right, sorry, I'm being really literal about muting myself here. No, I think, two ways. So from a Leo Burnett perspective, we have an internship program that's open to juniors and seniors, so graduates. That is one of the best ways to get into an entry-level position in our company in the advertising world. It gives you an opportunity to experience different areas of the company and different roles, so you can really determine what feels like a good fit, what aspect of the business you like. And oftentimes we hire for entry-level positions from that intern pool. That's not to say we don't hire entry-level folks right out of college, but it's much more rare. I would say the jobs are often they come and go pretty quickly. So like Bryan was saying, I definitely encourage, if you're interested in getting into the advertising world and don't have an internship lined up, picking a city that you're interested in and moving to that city. That's the easiest way you'll be able to really pick up one of those roles more quickly. And certainly reaching out to the Duke network and talking to Duke alums. I talk to a lot of folks that are graduating, and I reiterate what some of the other folks have said is, come prepared, understand the role that you're interested in, understand the company, have done some research even just in advertising. So, have read trend publications and trade publications, and have some ideas of brands that you really like and appreciate the work that they're doing, and can talk about that, because that's just someone that is in the business and could potentially help out. That's the kind of excitement and interest that I want to see and hear, and I'm much more open to passing along resumes, for folks who seem genuinely interested. That's not to say that you can't do a lot of informational interviews as well, but if you're truly looking for one of those entry-level positions, do your homework, do your research, and come prepared and really demonstrate that interest in the field. So I think 2 ways is certainly internships are the easiest, and then networking and picking the city and really hitting the ground and reaching out to those Duke contacts.
Okay, Matt, you're next.
Well, I've found the people, especially that I like, and most willing to help, that reach out to me, are ones who have done their research first. Like, look, especially if you want to work at NBC, look on the NBC website. There's a whole job site. It'll tell you what entry-level positions are available. If you came directly to me and said, hey, I'm interested in this entry-level position, what do I need to know? Who should I contact? I'm more apt to help you than you just coming to me and saying, hey, I'm from Duke, I really want a job, what do you have? So, it's definitely good to do some research. When it comes to NBC especially, we have something called the PAGE program you might have heard about, which exists both in New York and LA. It's a great entry-level position for people who want to work at NBC. They definitely love to see like Duke on the resume. I know many former, many Duke alumni were pages. So it definitely gives you a leg up. You may not hear from them for a little while, so it's good if you're going to apply online to that. Try to apply when you're getting ready to graduate, not after you've already graduated. But yeah, my main advice is definitely look on the website, see the jobs you want that you might be interested in, and then reach out to someone like myself or another Duke alum that works at the company in the area that you're looking to go into, and ask about that particular job, because you're more likely to help you if you already have an idea of what you want to do, rather than coming to us and asking us to help you figure out what you want to do.
Awesome. Noreen?
Sure, just to piggyback off of what everybody else said, I think internships are also really important in journalism, and it also helps to know people and network and all that good stuff. But I think journalism is distinct in that your work is really, really important, and your clips are always going to be really, really valuable for other people to see. So, on top of all of these things that all of these other folks have said, I would say, hustle, do good work, and that sort of shines through. And if you're writing things that other people can't ignore, or producing creative pieces that other people can't ignore, that really, really helps.
Thanks, Noreen. And last but not least, Ross.
Yeah, sure thing. So I don't want to repeat what people have said, but I think if you're not trying to convert full-time to an internship, then you definitely need to get someone. I think Katarina and I have some numbers from Google. It's kind of mind-blowing. There's thousands of people applying every day. So if they don't have an internal referral or someone reaching out, they probably won't be considered. And the second thing, so to point out that first thing, networking is easy. Try to do it in person. The better it is to convey your excitement for a company or role. The second thing is, if you can talk to people that are currently in the entry-level program, I think there's more value to that than to someone more senior at a company. And the reason why is because the hiring managers for entry-level programs are sourcing their talent through the entry-level employees, not through the folks in the company. So if you can try to reach out to the people who are currently in the program, definitely do that. And I think my third piece of advice is you should obsess over your resume. I really think that people don't focus on this enough because your resume is an advertisement. So if it's poorly formatted, if it's a typo, or doesn't look at all relevant with the company you're applying to, they're going to completely discard you. One of the cooler things I've seen with tech resumes, media resumes, is people who make web versions of their resumes, so personal sites for themselves. And I think that that's a really strategic move because in addition to submitting a PDF in your resume and e-recruiting to a program website, you could also follow up over email with a link to your website, which is often more helpful than a resume because for tech and media, usually a portfolio and visual than it is to talk about results. So that's my biggest piece of advice is if you can make a website for yourself, do it. There's a lot of services like Squarespace and WordPress that you can use for free. But I highly recommend it.
All right, great. Thanks, Ross.
I have a question for Bryan. Like, do you think when going into the film industry or television industry that having a Duke education differentiates yourself from like other kids who might have gone through film school?
So, Bryan, did you hear that? I can repeat it for you.
Does going to Duke differentiate yourself? Is that what the question is?
Yeah, compared to people who are coming out of film schools.
Oh, okay. You know, I think that the value of Duke is that you have 4 years to really go and pursue whatever you want. I think the freedom of being able to travel abroad or go and study literally anything. I mean, it's a top-notch education with incredibly smart, interesting people surrounding you. And I think that does it actually, when you come out here and you have the resume with Duke on it, does that set you apart? To an extent, but I don't think it's as, to be candid, I don't think it's going to necessarily immediately open new doors or get you a job. I think what's going to get you, open those doors, get you the job, is you being an interesting, well-rounded, smart, creative, fun person. And Duke really allows you to do all of this, to become that person. And I think that's one thing that is often forgotten. When you're going to school, you're already thinking, up until this point, you've gone to middle school, high school, college, everything has been set. It's a set path, and you're always thinking about what's the next thing. I got to get good grades to get to that next step and get into a good school. That next step is complete free-for-all, and you can do whatever you want. And I think that it's important to step back a second and think really like, not worry so much about preparing for it on paper, but preparing for it as a person. And so that's what Duke really offers. Now, as compared to film school, how important is film school? You know, honestly, I think if you want to be a director, maybe. But I'm pretty suspicious of film school in general. I think it's too prescriptive. I think it's too limiting. And I think that, honestly, when you come out here the first 3 or 4 years, that's your film school. I mean, you're going to have to be working really hard on entry-level jobs, and you're going to learn how it works. And you're actually going to be doing it in the middle of things as opposed to just talking about it theoretically. So I would save the money and use it to survive out here while you're getting the jobs that don't pay very well, unless you want to be a director. And even then, I would consider using the salary money or the money to go to school, and use it to like actually go and make a film.
Yeah.
Hello. This question is directed to Ross and EK at Google. I think one of the mantras of Duke University is that you go explore and try different things while you're at college. And I think by the time you're junior or senior year, you have an array of different experiences on your resume. You know, my example, I worked at startup at Morgan Stanley this summer. But in terms of people that are very focused on, you know, companies like Google, what are some of the ways that, you know, best leverage the experiences that you've had other than the tech firms?
Did you guys catch that?
Could you repeat it?
Repeat it, please.
To repeat it, yeah.
I'll repeat it. Yeah.
So what are the best ways to leverage the experiences that we have that are probably not in the tech business specifically?
Yeah, so I think one thing, at least from the marketing program, that they look for in applicants is people who are just really well-rounded. I think the same qualities that Duke looks for in Duke students, there's a lot of overlap in what Google looks for in the entry-level candidates. So if you have something, even if it's something that shows experience or situation where you were really creative or thought of a unique solution to something, I think people love hearing about experiences like that. It's not 100% aligned with tech. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. I think so long as you're putting your best foot forward in any of your internship experiences and coming out of it with tangible results, they will all serve very well in your applying.
I would say, so one of the things that Google looks for fourth in their hiring, and one of them is googliness, which can be interpreted as like well-roundedness, but it's more about like being really interesting and standing out. So I would say, in terms of the experiences that you pursue, look for getting involved with things that you actually find interesting and things that you love enough and are passionate about enough to make a difference in, so that when it comes time to apply, you have something on your resume that really stands out, not just like where you worked, but what you achieved there because you cared enough to do something that shows that you created something new or were first in something or showed some kind of leadership. So I would say that's the best way to leverage those experiences. It doesn't matter where they are, like what industry or what type of work you were doing, as long as you can like take lessons from those and figure out how to apply those in interviews to show that that you're a good fit and that you can take on challenges and that you can work with uncertainty and create something that stands out.
I think another thing to add to that is that Google is no longer just a tech company, and I don't know if people forget that. Different organizations within Google that are working on social impact, different organizations like Google X, and thinking through ways to give internet access to developing areas of the world. So I could see this as something where you did Duke Engage one summer, and then you did something the following summer that was a bit more relevant to online or their traditional products.
Okay, guys, we have time for about 2 more questions. I see one hand. Is anyone else? Get your questions ready now.
This is, I guess, for everyone. If any of you went to grad school or colleagues that you have that went to grad school, how do you see the role of grad school as opposed to just moving to a city and like getting an internship or finding a job in this field of work?
So, sorry.
Did you guys hear that question?
Yeah.
Okay. So Bryan, you can start just because you're on the left.
I did go to grad school. I think I kind of mentioned a little bit about grad school for film grad school, my thoughts on it. I think that there's no wrong way, but I would recommend before you go to film school, at least come out to LA, maybe New York first, and get a sense of the industry and the rhythm of the industry to see if it's really for you before you put the money into going to school.
ECAT?
Sorry, I had trouble. I don't know. I thought I originally wanted to get an MBA right after school. I took my GMAT last couple of years. Now that I'm here and I'm in a company where I can do a lot of different things, and I know like kind of where I want to end up, which is just being a people manager. I don't think I will go to grad school anymore. I don't think it's for everyone. A lot of people, at least for MBAs, use it if they want to like jump into a different industry. So I would just keep in mind that it's not necessarily for everyone. Maybe give it a couple of years before, at least for MBAs, you make the decision whether you want to do that or not.
Matt.
I did not go to grad school. I guess in my field it's more like journalism school. There are some people at NBC who did go to journalism school. A bunch of the reporters. I think it may be more useful if you want to be an on-air reporter or such. But in producing roles, I kind of tend to agree with Bryan. You know, it's definitely more valuable to just get in on the ground level and work your way up. Getting in the practical experience is really what helps you move up in the job, not having a fancier resume with like journalism or film or communications like graduate programs on there. You know, people definitely look for more experience than just grad school. So I think, you know, especially in our field, it's a little different than like banking or something like that where you want to eventually get your MBA. I think it's better just to get in on the ground floor and work your way up and get the experience, which will help you get better jobs.
All right, thanks, Matt. We're actually going to jump back. Katie, can you hear us?
Now, yes, sorry. I don't know why I keep getting dropped off, so apologies for the distraction. Do you want me to answer that same question? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, yeah, definitely a graduate degree is not necessary for an advertising career. You know, everyone else has said, you get just as much experience, if not more, on the job and in the day-to-day. I would say if you're interested in pursuing a marketing career on more of the client side, oftentimes, you know, folks who fill those roles come out, you know, have their MBA and go to graduate school post-college. But I also support the you know, the mindset of graduating and getting a few years, get your feet wet, trying a few different things and exploring some different avenues, and then deciding if you're going to go back. Because I think you'll find in a lot of different careers that you know, a graduate degree is a nice to have, and it can certainly help with the mobility you know, into different roles and positions. But it's certainly not necessary to succeed in a lot of different fields. So especially advertising.
Thanks, Noreen. You're next.
Yeah, like the other said, it's definitely not necessary in a journalism job, and I think that the best experience is sort of just going out there and writing stories and learning how to report and doing all of those things. And I should mention I work at a network now, but before I worked at sort of niche publications. So at first I was at National Journal in DC. Before that, I was the Austin American Statesman, and before that, I was the News and Observer. So it was a sort of gradual move up, and I think those experiences were the best training that I could have had, sort of starting out in smaller markets and, you know, making the mistakes that I needed to make before I started writing national news. And, you know, journalism school is expensive, and I'm not sure it would have been wisest for me to, at 22, to jump into it. I think later on I might consider getting another degree just to develop my expertise in something and be more informed when writing about that subject, but definitely not needed.
And Ross?
Yeah, so I don't want to repeat what everyone else said, but I think just speaking for technology, a lot of the senior people at Google I've spoken to about this always say that if you know you want to work in tech, getting an MBA isn't necessary at all, and if you want to stay there for a while, you oftentimes can't afford to lose that amount of time just because tech companies and startups move so quickly, and if you leave, it can be pretty difficult to come back and jump back in and show that you've really developed over the course of your time there. The other cool thing about Google and other companies like LinkedIn and Apple is they usually give a stipend toward education every quarter. So if ECAT and I wanted to go to some, you know, executive MBA class or take a particular course at Stanford, they would give you credit to be able to do that. So it's not like education. It's not like you're going without education if you don't do an MBA. There's other options for taking courses that can give you the same skill set.
All right, thanks, Ross. Okay, last question. Does anybody have one? If there are no questions from the audience, I know I have one. No more? Okay, so my question, as a senior, and I know there are also some other seniors in the audience, and I'm in the process of deciding where I actually want to live. So I want you guys actually not to talk about your industry, but to talk about the city that you live and why you love it and why you decided to go there.
Come to San Francisco. It's the best city ever. No, grew up in New Jersey, so I kind of had New York City as my backyard. But I wasn't sure about SF before I moved out full time. I had to go because of the job. Luckily, I felt out for 2 or 3 months for the internship. But since I moved out full time, I really know so many different types of people. It's a much more active city and it's much more outdoorsy than I think New York City is. A lot of other things to do on the weekend. You can hike on weekend, or you can drive back north to Napa, enjoy wine country. So I really enjoy San Francisco a lot for people and activities.
ECAT, can you add on to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So right out of college, I thought that I wanted to move to New York. I had done an internship there. I loved like the fast pace and the energy. But San Francisco grew on me really quickly, and every day I love it more and more. It's just like I can pursue kind of the lifestyle that I want to have here, which is outdoorsy. I'm really into yoga and kind of like holistic spiritual living. So this is the place to be for that. And it's just beautiful. You can rent a car, or I mean, if you have a car, just go an hour any direction, and you can have a gorgeous weekend getaway, just like in the mountains on the ocean. And everyone's really nice here, so I would absolutely advocate for San Francisco, especially if you're interested in like the tech industry at all. I would say that like New York kind of pales in comparison, and that's the only second after SF. So come to SF.
To describe your experience in LA.
Was that for me? I'm sorry, I'm having.
Yeah.
I was cutting in and out. Los Angeles. I have a love-hate relationship with Los Angeles. I would say go to SF also, probably. But if you are going to come work in film, Los Angeles does have a lot to offer. Obviously, there's the beach. There's a lot. The surrounding areas are beautiful. There's amazing wildlife and just incredible ocean views, and so that's really nice. And I have found that there's unexpected depth in LA. You have to look for it a little bit, and but if you make a point of going and finding new neighborhoods and finding new little hole-in-the-wall restaurants or bookstores, it actually becomes a really interesting, unique place. The problem with LA is the traffic, and you're always stuck in a car, and you're kind of like, it's an artery system, so you're just going from, you're not running into people, you're going from where you live to where you work to wherever you're going, and you're kind of passing through a lot of communities and neighborhoods, and you don't get to really experience them as much. And so I would advise you to kind of fight against that and make sure that as much as possible you find excuses to go to places you otherwise wouldn't go.
Duke in LA this last spring, and we had dinner at Bryan's house on a pretty frequent basis, and he was bringing all of these really awesome people from the industry. So Bryan's a really good connect. He's really knowledgeable. If you guys have questions, definitely hit Bryan up afterwards.
Thanks.
Still with us?
Hello? Sorry, was that it?
No, we're asking Katie to talk about Chicago.
Oh, Chicago. Well, if you guys didn't know, it's a tropical wonderland in Chicago all year round. And no, it's despite the weather and the reputation we have for bad weather, it is a fantastic place to live. It's a big city, but it's very livable. We've got the benefits of all of the big city culture, the food and sports, but it's just a place where the streets are wider and you see people on the streets that you recognize frequently, and it has wonderful neighborhoods, and it's also one of those cities that when the weather is nice, people don't leave the city. They just come outdoors and really embrace and do things on the lakefront, and are all out and about, and it's just it's been a wonderful place to work. So I think it's also a place where I think it follows a lot of the Duke mantra: we work hard and play hard, and it's just a it's a great city. I think it's often overlooked because the winters can be scary, but we know we have heavy coats and we know how to have fun indoors too. So how's that for a sales pitch for Chicago?
Very nice. Yeah, I'll add on to that because I did do Chicago this summer, and it was an incredible experience. And I'm from New York, so I actually like Chicago better because it is, a more homey, clean version of New York, and the arts industry there is just so collaborative and so supportive. They just really go for experimental, small forms of theater and dance and every form of performing arts, and it's a really great city. So, Matt, talk about New York.
I mean, I think there is a reason why everybody says, well, I was thinking about going to New York after school. I mean, New York is the greatest city on earth, let's be honest here. Come on. You want a crunchy granola lifestyle? Yeah, go out to San Francisco, go to LA, you want to be at the beach. If that's your thing, then that's where you should go. If you want to be fast-paced, if you want to live in a tiny-ass box with like 4 other people trying to make ends meet, you know, just to be able to pay your rent, then New York's the place for you. You want to be able to get a croissant and a donut any time of the day, that's where you're going to go. You want to get a cheesesteak at 4 in the morning after clubbing all night long, you want to be in New York. If you want to, you know, if you want to be with people who would rather spit on you than help you down the subway stairs, then New York is the place for you. So, you know, there is a reason why a lot of people say that New York is the greatest city in the world. I love it. I grew up here. I went to Duke, had a fantastic 4 years, but couldn't wait to get back to the city. You know, it's really, honestly, it is an extremely difficult lifestyle, especially starting out, especially if you don't have a lot of money and you have kind of an entry-level job. It will be difficult, but there are so many great places. The culture is amazing. You can find those little hole-in-the-wall dive bars that'll give you $2 beers until, you know, you pass out, and then when you wake back up, they'll give them back to you again. So, you know, I mean, it really is an incredible place to be, and, you know, if you can stomach it, I would say it's definitely the city to live in.
Yeah, quite the sincere answer. Lorene, you're next.
Yeah, another thing about New Yorkers, we don't bullshit around.
I also kind of have a love-hate relationship with DC. It's a great city to start out in. Actually, you can find an affordable place to live and all of that. Actually, when I first moved to DC 4 years ago, I lived in suburban Virginia, and I slept on an air mattress for 9 months. And by the end, it had like a big lump on it. And those are the kinds of stories that kind of you hear in DC. But yeah, I mean, it's like the largest concentration of smart people that you'll ever meet. Sometimes they do feel a little homogenous, which is why I think New York calls to me. I agree with Matt. God, you can get dumplings at like 1 in the morning. It's just so great. But like, and you know, people in DC, it's full of young people. All of those young people are into like organized activities, like in networking events and like bocce and like sports things. So for all of that, it's great. It's great weather. You can go outside and go on a run whenever you want. It's got the monuments, and you know, if you're a fan of the West Wing, when you're like walking near the White House or near Congress, you'll, you know, get those little goosebumps. But you know, that wears off after a while. I'm not saying you should move to DC though. It's a great place. It really is. And our food scene is also growing. There's no dumplings at 1 in the morning yet, but I'm confident it'll happen in the next 5 years.
All right, thanks, Doreen. Well, that wraps up our amount of time for questions. And we just want to thank you all for joining us tonight. It's been really great, and we really enjoyed having you all.
Thank you so much.